Cool, fantastic. Well, we might get started right away. So thanks everyone for joining. We're really delighted to have you all tuning in. My name's Natasha and this is Sally, and we're from the Mable team. And before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters, and culture. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. So, thank you for registering to the webinar. We are covering falls awareness training for support workers. So today, just a quick outline of what we're covering. We're recognising why falls are a serious risk for ageing Australians, identifying common risk factors, learning helpful observations you can make as a support worker, and applying practical fall prevention strategies in everyday support settings. And lastly, responding appropriately after a fall and documenting and reporting correctly. So, why do falls matter? Falls are a leading reason for incidents on Mable. So that's why we wanted to cover this important and critical topic today. They're a leading cause of industry-related hospitalization in older adults, and 1 in 4 people who are aged 65 and over have at least one fall per year. So the impact can include pain, fractures, loss of mobility, anxiety about falling, serious injury or death. And some falls, the good news is that some falls can be preventable with consistent, small, simple actions. Take it away, Sally.
Cool, thank you. So I'm just going to be talking through some of the common risk factors. So next slide, please. This is not an exhaustive list. So these are just some of the key things that you could be looking out for. We split it into two parts. So some are around personal factors and some are more around environmental factors. So the first one is just around if the client that you support has had falls before, or that they're very fearful of falling as well. I know, especially my mother-in-law feels very anxious about falling as she loses a bit more of her mobility. So it's kind of a real issue. If people have balance, strength, or mobility issues, then it can be more likely. So it's something that you need to watch out for. And if someone's had a hospital visit, then they will have something called deconditioning. And so that's been when they have been inactive after an illness or been off their feet for quite a long time. They will be a bit more likely to fall because they're a bit weaker, they're a bit more fatigued. I think so that's definitely something to watch out for as well. If people have vision or hearing changes, or things such as dizziness or vertigo, chronic conditions such as diabetes or arthritis, that can increase the risk, as can cognitive impairment, dementia or Alzheimer's, something like that. Someone has a new medication or they're experiencing some side effects, that also can increase the chances of fall. And we're going to go through rush toileting in a bit more detail after this, but that also is a factor that to be aware of. Some of the environmental factors include if there's a lot of clutter in the house or there's loose items like rugs or cords. We've all had it where pets get underfoot sometimes, but that's something to be aware of, that especially for an older person, it does increase the likelihood of a fall. If the lighting isn't very good or there's glare on the floor, that makes it a bit more difficult to see where to step. Slippery or wet surfaces, uneven paths or steps is a bit of a danger as well. If people don't have handrails or they don't have grab rails or bathroom aids, now quite a lot of people do use walking aids, but it's also good just to make sure that the walking aid actually is the right height. There's no damages, there's nothing wrong with it that would mean that it could maybe get caught or something like that, because that would always increase the chances. And final one that we have here is just making sure that items are within a safe range, so nothing's too high up or nothing's too kind of having to bend down or reach or something, because that can mean an older person is more likely to fall if they're reaching. So just thinking about the house, so we've just listed as well some of the things that you can do just to make sure that it is as safe environment as possible. So make sure lighting is nice and bright, is consistent around the house. So sometimes you get these white light bulbs, sometimes you get the yellow ones, things like that that could change how someone is able to see around the house. Making sure night lights are around. This is a really good tip, and it's very easy to get those sensor lights. So even somewhere like Bunnings sells them for quite a good price. Just making sure that that lights the route that someone would take around at night, just to make sure that they're not more likely to have a fall. Things like floors, as we covered already, just making sure there's nothing on the floor that could be a trip hazard, so mats and cords, etc. In the bathroom, all these things are quite cheap, like a nice non-slip mat, putting in some grab rails or a raised toilet seat is always recommended. Handrails on stairs as well. And contrasting edges are really good. And sometimes you can do it just with a bit of tape, but it just makes sure that people can actually see where they're going to be putting their feet. There's no clutter around. Make sure in the kitchen that frequently used items are at waist height. And if approved, that's the key piece here of if it's approved that they can have a step stool, just making sure that it's nice and stable, it's a good quality one, probably not too high. But for that approval, that would be someone that you'd need to talk to the client's loved ones or their aged care provider, just to make sure that that was accessible, that was allowed. And then the final one was just outdoors, making sure pathways are clear. Things like moss and leaves, if someone can easily lose their foot on those, so just making sure that they are swept away and that pets are kept securely and can't just run down the front gate and bounce into someone, which they are known to do. And with any of these changes, it's just make sure that you're discussing them with your client. So it's not something that you just would go in and, as you all know, but you wouldn't just walk in and suddenly make changes. Just talk to your client, make sure that they're on board with this and that it's not making too many changes for them. It's not kind of upsetting for them. Now, these seem really, really obvious things, but just outlining it here, that it's really important just to make sure that footwear, vision, and hearing are taken care of, because this is a really leading cause. All of these three things are leading causes of accidents. So footwear, make sure that your client has well-fitting enclosed shoes with non-slip soles. Things like backless slippers, or if their soles are getting worn out, it's much more likely to be a trip hazard. The old adage, we all know it, but when you take something off, put it back in the same space. So you can always make sure that you can find it, preferably in the case so that they don't get broken, and making sure if there's a spare pair of glasses around, it's the right prescription and they're in the same place every time. So there's little habits that you can get into just to make sure that people can see properly. And with hearing aids, they should be clean, they should be regularly checked to make sure that they're still working, and that spares of batteries are just in a labelled storage spot, because all these three things are a big cause of additional falls. And then just thinking through toileting and daily routine. So if someone's rushing, then that additional speed can be a hazard. So just making sure that you're planning the toileting times, you're just prompting your client regularly just to go, so that there's no rushing and no kind of unnecessary stress. Again, those night lights, just making sure that there's a clear pathway that people can see as they go. And very important one, just making sure that there's a way that the client can contact if there's an issue. So the personal alarm or the phone, whatever's documented in the care plan, is within easy reach, preferably being worn.
Cool. So your role as a support worker in preventing falls. So it's just a moment to reinforce that as a support worker, you play a vital role in both preventing falls and responding safely if falls occur. But just to reinforce boundaries as well, that support workers are here to enable safety, and you don't provide clinical treatment. And also to a reminder to follow the client's care plan. So there should always be a care plan for government funded care, and a care plan is available at the point of service. And via the Mable platform, you should be emailed when this is uploaded to the client's account. If you don't see a care plan, ask your client, their rep, or their provider as well. And if the client's privately paying, there should be some documentation of care guidance. So you can just contact their family or their representative. So here are the different people that you could be interacting with when you're supporting a client. So firstly, a loved one. So this might be a family member, a friend who organizes support for the client, an NDIS coordinator. Obviously, we're touching on aged care, but you could also deal with NDIS coordinator in some instances. So, as the name suggests, a coordinator works with clients with disability to coordinate their NDIS funded support. And an aged care provider. These professionals help clients manage their home care package, soon to be aged care funding with the changes to support at home. And so, keeping in mind all these different people you could be interacting with, it's important to use professional language in your support notes and health and wellbeing notes or reporting incidents via the Mable platform, as all these key people involved could be reading them. But we'll touch base on this later on in today's webinar. And also, so here's some handy tips for each visit. So, recommending, checking if there's been any changes to the client's care plan since your last visit. Has there been any updates? Has there been any emails that have come through? A quick scan of the hazards, so the lighting, floors, bathrooms that, Sally went through earlier. Ask the client if there's been any changes since the last visit, and ensure that you document key observations and escalate anything. So you can never under document or report anything. So make sure you record things in your shift notes.
Okay, so now we're going to talk through what to do if hopefully in the very unlikely event that a fall occurs. So hopefully most of you will have had first aid training and you will have covered this already before. Just a reminder that we do have discounted training available through the Mable platform for independent support workers. It's Australia-wide, it's $165 at the moment. So we do always recommend just getting the upskilling, having like the professional training on this, just to help you through. But if a fall does occur, the first thing that you would always do, the most important thing is making sure that there's no danger. So that could mean danger to you, it could mean danger to your client, or it could mean danger to anybody else around. Kind of an example of danger could be potentially if someone has slipped and there's water around, and then there may be like a loose electrical cable or something like that. That would be an example of a danger that we would say you wouldn't get involved there. You would need to just step back and call appropriate people. The next thing that you would do is you would just check your client's response. So there's something called COWS that you can use, which is you would say, can you hear me? Open your eyes, what's your name? Squeeze my hand. So you can do that. You can just make sure, see if the patient is actually conscious or not. So something that we would recommend doing. And then the next step is always sending for help. And by that, we just mean calling 000. That's usually the most important step if you're noticing that something has gone wrong and that your client is in need of some additional help. Then the next step is just really to follow what they tell you on emergency services steps that they tell you. What they will get you to do is they will get you to check the airway, they'll get you to check if the client is breathing. They may advise you to do CPR, and if there is a defibrillator available, then they will get you to attach that, and they will get you to administer shocks as well if it is available. They're not always available, but it may be. There you go, the things that you'd have to do. Again, we would recommend getting that first aid training if you don't already have it. It's good just to have a bit more confidence with these things, knowing what to do, because in the unlikely event that it's called on, it's good to be able to know what to do. And the most important thing is call 000 if you're worried. Like they're never going to say, oh, you did the wrong thing by calling us. The first step is always to call if you're not sure. Some of the things that would be 100% reason that you would have to call. So if there has been a head impact, if there's been a loss of consciousness, If your client seems very confused, slurred speech, maybe they have some weakness or a severe headache. If there's a lot of pain, there's some deformity on a limb, or you're noticing something looking very different, an inability to bear weight, or if they're having trouble breathing, or they're having a lot of chest pain, or they're short of breath. Now, this is an exhaustive list. This isn't an exhaustive list. This isn't the only reasons you should call. These are just some examples of some of those more medical emergencies that you should call. But again, if you're worried, just call 000. If you're still concerned, so it's not something that seems like a medical emergency, but just seems to be something that that your client definitely needs a bit more support, you can refer to the care plan. You can see what has been documented of who you should contact or what you should do if the client isn't going so well. Maybe call their emergency contact or their loved one or provider. And Tash is going to talk you through next around how you would report an incident. It's really, really important that all of this is documented as going through the usual Mable way of reporting, because we have a lot of platform tools that enable you to document all that you need to do.
Cool. So thank you, Sally. So documentation and reporting. So as a support worker after the session, it's important that you document promptly after the session, record facts, what you saw, heard, did, avoid assumptions as well, include things such as time, place, activity, footwear, aids and equipment, environment, witnesses. And also notify people a part of the client support, so the coordinator, the family, the care team. And then, which will also show what it looks like in the Mable platform. Complete an incident report and make sure you have as much detail as possible. And then any follow-up actions that are requested too. So in terms of health and wellbeing notes, this applies only to clients with aged care funding, and home care providers are required to monitor health and wellbeing notes under the aged care quality and safeguards standards. This is an important safeguard for aged care clients, and it's designed to help them get the support that meets their changing needs sooner, and to ensure that they can live safely and independently at home for longer. So in order to assist providers to meet this requirement, when submitting your support hours for a client with aged care funding, you're prompted to either select no health wellbeing changes observed, or add them if you notice a change in deterioration in a client's health and wellbeing. So as you can see in these screenshots, Mable provides support workers with a checklist and examples of health and wellbeing notes, which are quite professional and objective. And if a provider gets health and wellbeing notes for one of their clients, they will decide whether to contact the client further to discuss the observed change that you've noticed and you've recorded, and determine if there's any assistance needed. And if there's no assistance needed, then no further action will be taken. But if there is assistance needed, the provider will work with the client and their representatives. So assistance might include adjusting supports and services, or providing longer term needs, or even applying for a higher level of funding. So as Sally touched on, here is an example of how to report an incident on Mable. So if any incidents occur in the session, in your support session, make sure you record the incident through the Mable platform when you submit your support hours. So this is an example when you add new support hours after a session, you select the client, you record the time and the day, and then at the bottom here, it says report an incident, and you can click yes or no. So as you can see here, if you press no, it would open up and there would be a lot of questions that you can complete to record more details about the incident. And yeah, that would go to the client's provider as well. And you can also choose to, if you want to disclose the incident information to the coordinator and also the client as well. After reporting an incident on Mable, what happens is we will review the incident within 48 hours and we might contact you to seek additional information as required. And depending on the incident, we'll take different steps, which might include contacting the parties to gain more information, facilitating access to support services, accessing and finding services for a client, referring to our insurance provider to potentially assist with a potential insurance claim. If a registered disability provider or home care provider is connected to the client's account, Mable will also forward the incident details to them. And where necessary, Mable will also report incidents directly to the Quality and Safeguards Commission or the Aged Care Quality Safety Commission. Cool. Oh, I think.
Sorry, the old mute trick, apologies. So now we're just going to talk through some further resources and learning you can do. So who here has done a Mable Learning Hub training course? So this is free for you to access. You can just access it through the platform. Yes, thank you, Catherine. Hopefully lots of you have. You can just access it through the benefits section of the dashboard. And in there's a Learning Hub link and you can just click through. You will need to set up an account, but you can just use the same details as your Mable account. And then you can access all of these free courses. We actually have 170 training courses available. And we do have some around falls prevention. So I highly recommend you have a look at these courses. For instance, we've got a falls prevention in older adults. And then we also have some aged care standards training as well. So quite a few different options there, but always a good option. There's also some falls prevention programs. We did a quick Google search and we found quite a few different options. So if you did want to learn more, that's an option. And then the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission also have some resources there. So we'll send these links out to you tomorrow so that you can digest at your leisure. So this is a short and sweet little webinar for you. Thank you for dropping by. But some of the key takeaways, so falls are actually the leading cause of incidents for older people. It's the leading cause of incidents on the Mable platform. So it's quite a few things that we can do to prevent them. It's really, and as we've shown, it's just really small, consistent actions that can help just remove dangers and make sure that hazards are removed and that people can move safely around their house and outdoors. Make sure that you're just observing the client every visit, making sure that there's no hazards around and that to them or the surroundings. And as Tash took you through, just make sure that you escalate early and that you're taking really good documentation of what happened. Thank you.